I'm going to share with you the 7 habits of millionaires that most people learn way too late. These help me stop wasting life as a broke 24-year-old and become a cash millionaire at age 27. If you start today, they'll literally compound into millions. So let's dive into the 7 habits of millionaires. Starting with habit number 1, talk to strangers. Everyone is one conversation away from achieving their dreams. You've probably heard this before. Your network is your net worth. But it's not just knowing people. See, a lot of folks make it a game of like,
I know this person and I have this contact and I have this email.
But you don't know them. And honestly, they don't want to help you. And that is the big thing. It's not who you know, it's will they support you when you reach out to them. And the only way you can even start a relationship is learning to talk to strangers, learning how to go from cold, I've never met you, to warm, this person wants to help me in my life. To do this right, you have to learn how to introduce yourself. It's the number 1 skill that I teach all young men that I coach. So the format is this. You say, hi, my name is, then I help, then get desired outcome, then your unique process. For me, when I was building SaaS Academy, I would say, hi, my name is Dan Martel. I help software CEOs get growth in their business with our perfect exit strategy. Then the person can lean in and ask you, well, how does that work? You can practice this every day, all day long. When you go into a retail store, ask the person, how late do you guys stay open? It sounds so trivial, but learning to ask a complete stranger a question, getting those anxious feelings out of the way and just making it who you are, asking the waiter how long they've been working there or what they would order if it was their birthday. Those are all great ways that on a daily basis you can build this muscle and overcome the fear of talking to strangers. When I decided I wanted to go be on other people's podcasts, I sat down and I sent personalized messages to over 500 podcasts. I knew my goal was to just get reps. It was less about being on the right podcast and more about getting time on a podcast. And even though it sucked not getting replied to or getting no's, I learned a long time ago that if I want to win, I have to fight for the no's, not the yeses. And that's why I reached out to so many people so I could learn to talk to strangers, learn to answer the question, what do you do? How did you get started? What is your story? Before you get the opportunity to have your Oprah moment, you have to be ready for it. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. And if you're not talking to strangers, then you're not learning anything new. They don't know about you. You don't know what they know. You already know what you know. Asking question gets you new information to be able to grow your life. But you can't build your network if you don't make time for it. Before I share number 2, we have a goal of hitting 1 million subscribers. So if you haven't already, take a second and hit subscribe below. Which brings us to habit number 2, manage your energy flows. Most people confuse work with getting things done. See, I used to work 100 hours a week. I was burnt out, stressed out, overworked, and I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. Now I work less than 40 hours a week, but I'm way more productive. The reason why is I focus on energy management, not time management. One of my favorite quotes on this by Benjamin Franklin is that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. To make sure that I get the most out of every day. And I used to think I was productive. I wasn't. I do these things. First off is I make sure everything I do is blocked in my calendar. I'm talking personal, professional, workouts, date nights. I need to see if I have capacity for more. I need to understand if there's conflicts where I don't have enough time to get a project done, what has to get dropped so that I can deliver on my commitments. If I don't put it in the calendar, then I'm playing a game in my head, and your brain was not designed to retain a lot of information. It was designed to solve problems. So take the stuff that you want to get done out of your head and put it into your calendar. The other thing that took me a long time to learn is put the most important tasks first. This is what all millionaires do. They wake up and they attack the money-making projects first thing in the morning, because if they get those things done right, everything else takes care of itself. It's the leading domino. Most people make the mistake of saying freedom is doing what I want with who I want anytime I want. The truth is that if you don't write things down in your schedule and know what you're saying no to, then a yes is a no to your dreams. Because if you say yes to somebody to taking the day off and going to the beach, but you don't know what you're giving up, then essentially you might be saying no to your dreams, your goals of the future by saying yes to the present. That is not what millionaires do. And if you want to make this even more powerful, review your calendar the night before. 8 p.m. every night, it's in my calendar. I review the next day. Even though it's pretty well baked a week ahead of time, I just want to ask myself, does this feel good? Does it flow right? Am I having the right conversation? Am I focusing on the right projects? If not, I make adjustments. And this next one is on every millionaire's calendar, which brings us to habit number 3, feed your mind. One of the greatest gifts my dad ever gave me was when I got out of rehab at 17 years old, was the decision to give me an unlimited budget for computer books. He told me as long as I finished it, he would pay for the next one. And my dad didn't have unlimited means. I knew how much of a stretch it was for him to be willing to say this to me, but he understood, and I eventually learned the power of self-education, the value of reading a book, understanding how to solve problems on my own. Since then, I've read over 1,800 books. What's crazy is a book can give you 20 years of knowledge in a few hours for just $20. Any new goal that I set for myself, I always ask, what are the 3 to 5 books that the best in the world recommend around that topic? If it's fitness, if it's relationship, if it's business, and then I go deep. Not only do I read them, I study them. I ensure that when I'm reading them, I'm thinking, how can I apply this today? And then also, how do I teach this to others? I read to learn, not to finish. The moment I get a massive takeaway from a book, I go execute. And if I never come back to that book because it solved my problem, I have no problems not finishing a book. I honestly believe, for myself and many of my friends that are millionaires, reading first thing in the morning primes our mind. It gets us ready to find opportunities all around us. And the coolest part is when I read those 10 pages minimum every day, I'm looking for something that I can use to serve the world with. And that energy of going on the hunt and highlighting different options to then share on my Instagram, I think that's what makes the book work for me. If you want to go deeper and learn how I think about my calendar and buy back my time, then get my book. I put 27 years of experience into this book and distilled it into the only strategies you need to read to get the most out of your life. But knowledge alone won't make you a millionaire, which brings us to habit number 4, be obnoxiously curious. The other day, my kids started asking why. And then I said, stop asking me why. And then the other one started asking why. And then both of them just kept going, why? And it occurred to me, I don't want to stop them from being curious, but I think in this moment they were messing with me. That idea of asking why and being curious is a powerful way to challenge any situation. If you don't learn to ask questions, even if it makes other people feel uncomfortable, then you'll never understand the reasoning behind why something is being done for you to be able to use that in other areas of your life. Albert Einstein famously said, "I'm not talented, I'm just curious." Years ago, I was hanging out with my mentor at a dinner party. I said to him, "It was interesting watching you because you just sat back and listened to everybody's answer. Yet I knew you already knew most of the stuff you were hearing. Why did you do that?" And he said, "I already know what I know. Learning from other people is how I progress my life forward. I think some people just talk too much." And that one hit me. As an extreme extrovert, I realized I wasn't asking enough questions. So this is exactly how I use curiosity to become a millionaire. First off, I would ask my customers, the ones that bought and the ones that didn't buy, why didn't they buy? What was missing for them to say yes? The ones that bought, what did you believe to be true that made you think that this is the right product for you? I asked my team why. I asked them, why did you decide to work here? Why are you deciding to do this? Why do they prioritize certain projects? How do they think about their work and where they want to end up in the future? Being curious about your customers and your team is how you develop a different mental model to be able to solve problems that are more effective. Even more importantly to that is asking yourself why. Why do you react that way? Why do you feel anger when those situations happen? What gets you frustrated? I always say, the world will show you where you're not free. A life unexamined is a life that wasn't lived. For you to truly express yourself in business, with your family, with your friends, you have to understand who you are. Even today, I was just recently at one of my mentors, Patrick Bet-David's office, and I saw a poster on the wall. And I asked one of the sales guys, "What's that poster?" And he told me that it's all the goals of the business. And the way it works is that if the bottom people don't hit their goal, because there was a reward next to it, the people at the top don't get theirs. And I thought to myself, how simple of an idea to get everybody aligned in the business with their goals across different departments. I took that idea, I created the aligned goals ladder within my business, and now I've got my team operating towards a common goal because I got curious when I was visiting another office. Which brings us to habit number 5, ask for feedback. When my brother started his home building company, he almost went bankrupt. The reason why is he built a product that nobody wanted to buy. How did he end up doing that? Because he didn't ask for feedback. He knew his target customer was first-time homebuyers, specifically women, but he never asked them about his designs, the locations, the finish, the fit, and he ended up building these houses that are said to have no curb appeal. Before he ran out of money, he called me up and we changed the whole strategy. Instead, what we did is we identified 5 women that were his ideal customer, ran around to all the open houses that were going on by his competitors, collected all the feedback about what these women loved, then fed that to the designer so he could architect the perfect home. He went from almost going bankrupt to building and selling 16 homes in his first year. That's the power of feedback. Money runs out, feedback multiplies. What's unique about my approach in business that allows me to make $1 million in my first year minimum is that I start expecting that something's wrong about my idea. I'm looking for how to validate my assumptions, not holding on